As we work through all of our monthly checklist audits, what I'm looking to do now is to go through to this one here, which is 4.4, which is the monthly audit for the department manager. It's new business and it's a transfer of management with an existing tenancy. So when we've transferred the management, we've collected the file, this is the information that we want to be able to go through and do the audit. Okay, so it's 4.4, and as with the other audits, we also have a paper document here. So if you're going to go through and do it electronically, then use the Trello board, copy that. Don't alter the template, but you just do copy and then add the property into it. If you're going to use the paper version, the paper checklist, then you would print this document off here. So again, it's a new business transfer of management with an existing tenancy. Same as the other documents, same as the other Trello checklist. If there is something which has been completed, then check it off. If it's not applicable, check it off. If it's not been completed, then you would leave it blank and then drag it up to this section here for the property manager. Okay, so we're just going to work through this now, and very similar to the other checklist, you'll get the same feel for this, which is we're entering the property address, the property manager. This one, we want to get the registered owner's details. Now, making sure that when we talk about registered owner, that is the person that's named on either the title and or the rates notice. And that also should then, and we'll go through this later, that also should then cross-check against the management authority as well. The entity, private, super, company. In most residential situations, it's going to be a private entity, so it's going to be in our personal names. Tenancy status, is it a fixed or is it a periodic? And the current rent amount, the date of transfer, and also just name the agency, not the agent. You can put the agent, but it's the agency. So if it's been transferred across from a Ray White office, then you're putting in the Ray White offer. If it's a Harcourt, you put that in, whichever it may be. And again, who's audited the file and the date this has been audited. Ideally, what you want to be able to do is to complete these audits within about 7 to 10 days from the end of the month before. So if we're looking at September, and we're in the month of September today, so this really should be, what should happen is the department manager creates the audits, and by around the 7th or latest the 10th of October, then these should be completed. And the reason for that is because you really want to be able to give feedback back to the property managers as quickly as you can, so that they can then correct and amend any of the information that's missing, complete it prior to the 15th of the month, which is generally when you're going to be paying commissions, if you pay commissions, or KPIs, those sorts of things. So you really want to be able to tidy this up by around the 15th of the following month. And then if it is completed, delete it. And any of the ones that are not complete, then you'd leave live in the Trello board. Any of the ones that have been completed, if they're absolutely fine, 100%, everything's all approved, then you just delete the actual card. Okay, so we're just going to go through here. Need to make sure that the property file has been set up correctly. So this is on your Google Drive Dropbox, on your server. So these are the 4 sections, and you can have a look at this through some of the other Trello cards that I've got, where we've got the property particulars folder, registered owner folder, current tenancy, and the previous tenancies folder. Then from there, there's subfolders that are linked to all of these. So this should be set up really early in the piece. So really at the stage where we're actually creating a management authority and sending it out, or even at an appraisal stage, that should be once it's been brought across. Have the appraisal documents been saved correctly, and is it been scanned and saved into the folder? That's really important. So if it is, so it's a check here. Here's their photographs of the property. These are the photographs that the property manager, BDM, whoever went out and did the listing, they would have photographs. Have they been saved? And some of these might be around particular features. It might have a swimming pool in the backyard. It might be near some parks. So some of the things that the property manager, or the listing manager, whoever took those photographs, they should be saved in there initially. So if it's correct. Now, if one of these is not correct, then what you do is you just go up and just pop that in through to there, and then that would sit there. So what we're doing, if you really wanted to, you could drag that up and underneath there, and what you're saying is, that the photographs haven't been taken, and you just make a little note. And to make a note, you go at, then it would be whoever the person is, so Michael. So at Michael, if I'm the property manager, then you would make a note. Once you hit that, enter, then what would happen then is I'll just drag these back so I don't mess them up. Then they will get an email. Okay, so we're going to uncheck those now. Again, only check them off if they're accurate. Now what we're looking for is the next stage, and the next section of the audit is to check the documentation. Do we have the right documents? And what we're looking for is, right at this stage, this is the stage where we want to do we really want to complete the audit correctly, because in times to come, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, at the end of the next tenancy, whatever it may be, you don't want to find out that you've missed something. You don't want to find out when you're at VCAT that you don't have a valid authority, or that there's something wrong, or there's an insurance claim. This is the time. So remember, if we've picked up the property in this month, being September, really this should be audited by around, at the latest, the 15th of the following month. So there should be no reason, as we go through and we work through our portfolio, there should be no reason why any of these files or any of these documents haven't been addressed or audited. So it's an ongoing audit process. Okay, number 4, is there a completed authority, and are there all pages? Often when I'm doing due diligence, or I'm doing some work as a consultant, I see that sometimes only the scan pages, the sign pages, have been scanned. So if there's 11 pages in an REIV authority, sometimes there's only 4 pages sitting in there. That would make that, to me, that would be invalid. So what you're looking for is there a complete document. If it's yes, then check it off. Is the authority valid and enforceable? Okay, so has it been signed by all parties? These are the elements of creating an enforceable authority. Has it been signed? Have the fees been set out correctly? And I don't mean, are you charging enough? But if the fees expressed as a percentage, has it been expressed as a dollar figure as well? These are all the things that are really important. Does the fee include GST? Has it been noted? These are the things that you really want to look for. Is it valid and enforceable? Then here, what you're doing is you're entering the date, so the last person. So today is the 23rd of September. So I'd be writing 23rd of September, sending that in through there. Now, I don't want to do that. So, discard. So I don't want to change that. Is there a proof of ownership on file? Yes. It's either a rates notice or it's a title. If it's neither of those, if you've got a water rates, that's a good guide, but I would still tick no. So what I'm looking for is either a title and or water rates. And the reasons why I want those is because I really want to be able to see that they have, that we've then cross-linked this back through to the owner, and that the management authority is correct. It's been addressed correctly, and at the same time, we're also then making sure that's been correctly addressed to Property Me Tree console in the property management software. So they all need to marry up. So the ownership match details, the details match, so that's fine. And again, if they don't match, this is the time when you want to figure that out, particularly when you're doing your property management software. You might have had a software audit. Someone might have set this up. It might be a VA, it might be an assistant, might be accounts that sets up the file in property management software, and that might not have been cross-linked. So you're really checking to make sure that that has been completed correctly. If the property is owned in a company or a super fund, are the right details sitting in the file? So is there an ABN search? Have you done that? And that's a free search you can do on Google. ASIC search. Is there a trust deed? Have you got the ABN? Is all of that sitting up there? Do you know who the directors are? So all of that needs to be applicable. Now, it needs to be entered. It's only applicable for companies, super and or trusts. So if it's a private entity, not relevant, you would just check that off as being complete because it's not relevant. Is there a complete valid owner's instruction form? Does it have the bank details? And do you have authority to sign on behalf of the owner? And is that noted in the file? Your management authority doesn't give you ownership, doesn't give you authority to be signing on behalf of the owner. So you may need to find, some do, but most don't. I know the REIV one doesn't. I think the Inspection Express one does, but you'd want to make sure that inside of either your owner's instruction form, you've got a note which says that the owner gives you authority to sign on their behalf. This would be lease details. This would be VCAT, breaches, rent increases, all those sorts of things. Signing rental agreements or leases on behalf of the owner. You want to make sure you've got authority to do that. Again, part of the process of when I'm doing due diligence, they don't have, many officers don't have this. Have the owner's details been entered, the bank details been entered correctly into the trust software? So do they match? And this is something that your auditor will pick up if they're doing their job correctly. An auditor really should be looking and saying, inside the file, we've got the bank details written here, and do they match? And if they're different, you'd want to know why they're different. And that's really an area for risk and fraud, particularly internal fraud. So it's really important to make sure that as part of your process and your rigidity around the bank details is that you have a really, really good change of owner bank details process, and you're not just going to go and let anyone go in and change those. I do have another process and policy and procedure around changing bank details. Have a look at that and make sure you implement that into your business. Number 9, is there a completed rental provider disclosure statement? And if it is, has it been updated? Is it complete or is it missing? So they're the things we're looking for. Is there anything on the disclosure statement that should have been included into the special conditions in the lease, or you should be making note of? Now, this comes down a little bit further on as well. So it might be that the owner has noted that there is an embedded network inside the property. So it's an apartment block. There's an embedded network, and here are all the details that need to be included, and that would be disclosed in the owner's disclosure statement. And that's something which is really important. We should be able to then use that as a label in Property Me or a tag in Property Tree, code that. But at the same time, we need to know that when we're creating new residential tenancy agreements in the future, that we've got that information. It should also form part of our advertising. So these are the things that we want to make sure we get right now, and not later on when the property becomes vacant and we have to advertise and leave it up to leasing. So the person who's doing this audit, there is a lot of responsibility on them to make sure that they've checked all of this to make it so much easier down the track, particularly around photos, professional photos. Often what I see, going off track from the disclosure statements, often what I see is when there's a management transfer into an agency, the next time the property becomes vacant, you receive a 28-day notice. It becomes a real mad scramble to try and get photographs. It becomes a scramble to try and find internet listings and documentation around how we should advertise and so forth. So what tends to happen is the agency will go onto the previous agency's website and then copy that, which is really poor form. So this is the time when you want to make sure you've gone through that. Okay, is there a written completed rental provider's minimum standards statement, and does the property comply? So this is what we want to make sure. When we're taking the property over, we've got the owner has said, yes, it complies with minimum standards, or no, it doesn't. Now that really depends entirely on, the property depends, the level of compliance depends entirely on what the other agency's done. But when it comes to your office, you want to make sure that you've fully aware of where it's up to from a minimum standards point of view. Because if the property comes out of a fixed term lease and then into a periodic, if it then goes back into another fixed term lease, it's deemed to be creating a new lease and it must meet minimum standards then. Really, really important. Same point again as above. Is there anything that's noted on the rental, the minimum standards, that needs to be noted in the agency software? And that again, it might be, say, for example, window locks not complying, door locks not complying, heating, those sorts of things might not comply right now. So these are the things that we really want to make sure that we've got a note of. Is there evidence from the owner's instruction authority with regards to landlord's insurance? So these are a couple of the things that we're looking for from an owner's instruction. And have we noted that? Has it been uploaded into the PM software? So if it's come across and there is owner's landlord's insurance, do we have a copy of that? Has it been scanned? Is it saved correctly? And have we created either a reminder or a renewal compliance appointment in one of the property management softwares? And has that been set up correctly? So what we're looking for is the agency managing the landlord's insurance moving forward and paying for it and managing the renewal? Is the owner managing the landlord's insurance and paying for it and the renewal? Or is there no authority to do so? And is it blank? So if it's blank at this point, what we need to do is the department head, as they're going through their authority, their audit, really should be coming back to the listing agent and saying, what were the discussions around landlord's insurance and why is it that the landlord's not taking out insurance? And we need to really have a conversation with them there. And it may actually be prudent for the department manager to pick up the phone and speak to the owners, the registered owners, and talk to them about this. You don't want to just take it on board as someone's ticked a box and then leave it at that. And then later on there becomes maybe an incident in the property, a fire, might be a drug grow house, there might be some damage, might be some water damage, some storm damage, and then at a later stage we're looking at trying to make insurance claim and the landlord doesn't have landlord's insurance, when really we should have been able to pick this up. Same applies for building insurance. So who's managing the building insurance? And smoke detector inspections also. So are we managing them? Is the owner managing them? Is there not authority? Has the compliance certificate come across? So these are the things that are really important. The electrical safety audit is also important. So we want to get a feel for that. So who's managing the compliance on this one? Is the owner managing it through one of their trades? Are we managing it? Gas and carbon monoxide safety inspections as well. And of course, if there's a pool barrier. So all of these need to be set up as either a label in Property Me or a tag in Property Tree. And again, any of the ones that are not correct, so by the end of it, it should be yes, yes, and yes. If they're not correct, then we're going to drag them up. So just uncheck those. Okay, so now what we're looking for is the information that should have been given to you as part of the transfer. So this really should be the documents that, as part of your checklist of what the other agent sent through. Now, this is really just a note inside of here. If the other agent hasn't provided you any of this information, that's okay, but doesn't mean that it's just missing. So you need to then chase it up with the rental provider, or you need to make sure that you've got a copy of this. Okay, so what we're looking for is a copy of the original application form and with 100 points of ID, photo ID. What you're also looking for is their supporting documents. So employment, financial, are there employment checks? Is there notes on their rental history, their previous agency checks? Is there a copy of the ticker or NTD sitting inside of there? Was there an original copy of the key register? Was that sitting inside of there? And was the what you need to be doing is checking and making sure that the original rental agreement that you've got a copy of, was that signed by the agent, the owners, or and also all of the renters. Is the renters, have they accepted a receipt of electronic services? And if it is, then make a note of that in your software. So these are all the things that you should have received when you transferred the property across from the other agency to yours. If it was a property that's the tenants have been in there for some time, have you got a copy of all of the rental agreements? You've got the original rental agreement plus all the subsequent renewals, so they are actually on file. Now, often it might be the first lease, so you just tick that off. It's not applicable. But any of the rent increases, if you've got copies of those as well. The original bond lodgement and bond receipt. Bond transfer form needs to be signed by the agent and given to you as part of the transfer. Current rental ledger, and then what we're looking for is the ingoing condition report, photos. Has it been signed by the agent? Has it been? It doesn't comply. Did it have? If it was recent, so in Victoria, if it had, did it have a copy of the most recent inspection dates for smoke detector, gas, electrical, and pool, if applicable? And was that noted in the condition report? Are there colour photographs? And was there anything that's special in any special conditions that were noted inside the condition report? It might have been, say, for example, cleaning receipts, steam cleaning receipts, they might have been put in there as well. Copies of the periodic inspections, have you got copies of those? Now we're looking for the compliance. Do we have a copy of the smoke detector compliance, electrical compliance, gas safety compliance? Now, if you don't have these, it's really important that you've got a copy of them. If you've got them, are they current or are they expired? So where are they up to? Any requests for pets, and that's really important. Any communications. If the renters have actually been in the property and then they've asked to get a pet of some sort, do we have a copy of that? Are there any bonds? Are there any special agreements? Are there particular photographs? All of this needs to be noted. Any breaches that have been served during the tenancy, so you'd want a copy of those. And any of the rental arrears strikes for the previous 12 months, particularly if a tenant might have actually had 3 strikes with the previous agent, then they come across to you. You don't want to start your 12 months all over again. Maintenance, is there any outstanding maintenance when the property was transferred? And are there any work orders that have gone out? Is there any work that was done that wasn't paid for? We just want to get an idea of this. That's really important. We want to get an understanding. So if there were work orders that were in the system that came across, then we need to make sure that we're following that up and have a look and make sure that the maintenance has been done. Any of the invoices that the owner has asked you or authorised the agency to pay on their behalf, which would be owner's corporation, maybe landlord's insurance, land tax, or any of those sorts of things with their due dates, have they actually been set up? And copy of the owner's corporation rules, the plan of subdivision, any move-out guides. That's really, really important. If you've got that on file, that becomes part of your tags and your labels. Make sure if there is specific information with regards to move in, move out. And what might happen there is it might be that the property has a loading bay and all move in, move out must be done through the loading bay, which might be at the back of the building. Or if there's a commercial premises with might have a shopping centre downstairs and a building apartments on top. There might be a particular area where you can and can't move in, and you might only be able to move in on, say, Monday to Friday between 10 and 4, which doesn't impact the rest of the tenants. And as a result of that, these are the things that need to be noted both in the advertisement, but at the same time, to the tenant prior to them signing up for the lease. So it's really important that that full disclosure is there. Landlords and building insurance, have they been paid and then they're actually due? Has that been brought across? Any capital works that have been undertaken during the tenancy that wouldn't show up. So there might have been some work, there might have been a replacement of carpet, there might have been a replacement of kitchen benches, an air conditioner or something like that, that wouldn't show up traditionally in the ingoing condition report that you want to make sure you're aware of. Have there been any modifications to the tenancy, to the property by the renters during the tenancy that wouldn't show up on the original condition report? These are all the things that you want to make sure you're finding out. Now, as you can see, this is incredibly detailed, but if you do this correctly, it makes life so much easier for managing the property and also for leasing the property down the track, and when the property becomes vacant, we go through that vacate process. Any furniture inventory, really important. If we've got if the furniture in the property, then you want to make sure there's an inventory signed by the tenant with detailed photographs. Copies of warranties, instruction manuals, did they come across? In this situation, if there was none and it's a relatively new property or a newer apartment, what you might do is go to the owner and ask the owner if they've got copies of these. They may not have provided them to the other agency, or they may have provided them, but the agent just didn't send it across. Is there anything specific with regards to the advertising photographs? Do we have a copy of the advertising photographs that the owner's already previously paid for? So if the owner, through the last leasing, paid for professional photographs, have they been transferred across? And floor plans as well. And a copy of the original internet ad. Now, this is where it's really important, as I said before, if there isn't a copy of the internet ad, don't mark this off as being yes, because it's not relevant right now, because it's going to put so much pressure on the leasing team at a later stage. What you're looking for, if there's no internet ad there, then the listing agent should be writing the internet ad today. This is part of that process, so we've got a copy of that, so that when the property does become, we do receive a notice to vacate or a 28 days, what we can do then straight away is, without delay, we can start to load the internet. Now, we might find that it's difficult because we don't have marketing photos, but at least we need to have something ready to go. Puts too much pressure on the leasing team. And do we have a physical copy of the keys and remotes and fobs and those sorts of things, and have they been set up correctly? So what we're now looking to do is to go back through, and now we're communicating with the renter itself. So what we're checking as part of the audit is, has the agent that's going to be managing the property spoken to, communicated to, sent a letter off, sent an email, and has it been received and accepted, that the renter's now fully aware that they're changing bank details from paying from the old agency to now the new agency. You don't want to find out by chance, when the property becomes in arrears, that the tenant has paid the old agency, only to find out that we sent off an email or sent off a letter, but no one's read it. So we really want to get confirmation that the renter has been instructed, not the renter's been sent, but the renter's been instructed. So what we're looking for is, has that been set up correctly? So an easy way to do this is obviously, if the rent's been paid before you're doing the audit, then that's fine. But you just want to make sure that you don't leave anything to chance with the communication back through to the renter. Confirmation that the renter profile and tenant access has been set up through Property Me, or PM software, Property Tree, whatever it may be. Have they got full access console? Have they got full access to the rental profile, particularly for maintenance? Has it been all the documents been uploaded with access or view for a renter to see? Has the PM arranged and recorded in the software? Have they actually made a date? Have they either been to the property or going to the property to do an initial inspection? They want to introduce themselves, have a look at the property, have a look at the condition. It's not a condition report because that's already been done. It's not a periodic inspection because that might not be due. It's just really to familiarise themselves. So I wouldn't be making this a formal inspection. The reason why I wouldn't be is because then that would then deem it, you might conflict with what the other agent's done from a date line, a timeline, and you don't want the tenant to be taking you to VCAT over this. So what you're doing is you're making it informally. Love to come out and have a chat, introduce myself. If it's okay, can I take a few photographs of certain things? So this would be taking photographs of the oven, maybe compliance plates, the air conditioner, security systems, those sorts of things. All those attributes that you want to have inside the property software, you want to have those photographs. You really want to do that there and then. These aren't advertising photos, but this is certainly going to help you manage the property moving forward. Imagine if you've gone and you've taken over a property, say September, and then in early November, you haven't been out to the property and the tenant rings up and says, I've got a broken hot water system. You've got no idea what sort of hot water system it is. So this is the sort of thing that, again, we end up making our life a little bit harder than it ought to be. Okay, so now in the property card itself, what we're looking for. So have the attributes been set up correctly? 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bath, car, all those sorts of things. Have the labels been set up correctly? I'm talking more about in Property Me or Property Tree. Have the labels and tags. So is there anything that's missing? Do we have a copy of the owner's instruction form but it doesn't have the bank details? Well, then therefore that's missing. It's incomplete. So I don't want to then go through and as part of the audit inside the property management software, you don't want to be closing this off as being an accurate or completed property. It hasn't been loaded correctly. So these are the things, this is where you want to fix this up now. And again, it should actually form part of the KPIs for the PM, particularly those that will link this back through to their commission. If the property's been owned in a super, has it been set up correctly? Do we have the directors? Do we have the notes of the ABN, ACN? Has all of that been set up correctly? Have the landlord's insurance policy reminders been set up? Have the compliance reminders been set up? If the policy was set up but it came across as expired, then you need to note that it's been expired, and then we need to get that addressed straight away. So then what happens is we end up creating tasks for ourselves. So this is why a full and detailed, exhaustive audit needs to be done on the property at the beginning, because if it's not, this is the one chance to make sure we're going to set this up, set the property up correctly, and then it helps moving forward. Landlord's insurance policy, do we have one? Is there a renewal date? And then the same applies for the building insurance, smoke detectors, do we have them? Are they compliant? Next renewal date. So by the end of this, there really should be, for most properties, almost all, 4 reminders. That would be smoke detector, electrical, gas, landlord's insurance. Then, depending on the type of property, you might also have building insurance as another one. You might have building and landlords combined, but that would be a reminder. So there's at least 4 reminders for every property. And then there's a potential 5th one, which would be the pool barrier safety for those that have swimming pools. But otherwise, every property should have a reminder or a renewal task that's sitting inside of the property management software. Okay, so property number 54, is the property compliant with smoke detector, gas, pool, and so forth? Now, if at the time of completing this audit it's not compliant, then you're going to leave this as yes. You won't check it off, but you're going to drag it all the way to the top, and you're going to say to the property manager, the listing manager, whoever brought the property across, hey, listen, you brought a property across to the portfolio, but it isn't compliant, so we need to make sure we fix that up. And again, I would not be paying any commissions on this one until it is actually compliant. Does the property meet all the 14 minimum standards? Same thing again. Were there any outstanding maintenance issues? You want to sort that out really quickly. And have there been keys? Nothing worse than bringing a property across because the BDM's really excited to bring a new property, but the keys have never been collected. So this is where we start to really change behaviours from a listing point of view, also from our team. Our team need to know exactly what it is they have to bring on. Eventually, what's going to happen is that the team will get to know what you're looking for as a department manager, and they will make sure that they have that they're bringing this to you, and the properties are coming across. So we're now starting to really look at agency best practice for all of our teams. Okay, in the special conditions, what we've got here, were there any conditions inside of the agreement that need to be noted? So we really want to have a look back through. Don't just take on board the fact that the other agent didn't write them. They might have been really sloppy. So what you're looking for is, if you know from the rental disclosure statement from the owner that there is an embedded network, well, was that noted in the special condition? It may not be, but you need to make a note of that. Were there any cleaning receipts, professional cleaning, steam cleaning? Were they noted? If not, and there was one in the file, then you're going to have a real trouble trying to get the renter to comply at the end of the tenancy. Did the property meet compliance, minimum standards? And if not, then what were the areas? And was there anything noted in the disclosure statement that the owner needed to disclose? So it might have been asbestos. There might be a dispute with regards to owners corporation. There might have been a death or a homicide in the property. In the previous 5 years. Illegal activity. Those are the sorts of things that need to be disclosed as part of the owner's disclosure statements. Were there owners corporation rules? So many times I do audits, and the owners corporation rules have not been incorporated into the lease, so they're just not there. There's but they'll say it'll be a standard clause that the owners corporation rules have been provided, but then they're actually never provided. Now we come back to, and we're doing an audit on the accounts team. Is when it's been set up correctly, if the VA or whoever's set up the file inside, they may not necessarily be fully comfortable with the way in which to set up a file. Now, the problem with that is that if the fees haven't been set up correctly, then you're really not going to know about this until it becomes an issue. The one that really gets me often is the GST, not understanding how GST works, particularly around, so for example, property me, it would have to be 110% for a letting fee. As opposed to 100% and those sorts of things. So what you need to make sure is that the percentages have been correctly set up, and any checkboxes for GST have been set up as well. So is the management fee set up correctly as per the authority? Has the letting fee been set up as per the authority? Has the internet listing fee been set up as per the fee schedule? So what you're looking for now, is there a fee schedule, which we talked about before? Has it been signed? And is it correct? NTD. If there's been 4 lease boards approved, has that been set up? Now, often what will happen is these will become individual fees that are set up under the once, not actually set up inside the file. But I would be setting them up and then just tick it when it needs to be done, each lease. Professional photos, has that been set up correctly? Are there any keys? Were there keys that were purchased? It might be fobs organised. Fobs and remotes organised through Owners Corporation. Have they actually come back through? Have their charges been recovered for those? Are there any ancillary fees? So lease renewal, monthly fee, end of financial fee, any of those fees, have they been set up correctly? If the owner has asked the agency to manage and pay for outgoings, such as rates, water rates, OC, land tax, insurance, and so forth, has that been set up? Is it really clear? And that might be through labels. So I should be able to, if you've got 100 properties and 50 owners want you to pay for landlord's insurance, I should be able to pull up a report saying which 50 want the insurance, which 50 don't. I should be able to pull up a report which 50 we're paying water rates for, which 50 we're not, which 50 we're paying Owners Corporation fees for, which 50 we're not. We should be able to bring up reports. The issue with this is that a lot of agencies don't know how to set up their data to start with. They've not spent the time in actually really developing the database to know what the reports are. So as a result, these things get slipped and forgotten. If you really want to set the team up to be able to maximize the software technology, all of this needs to be set up correctly. Reach out to me if you need some help on this one, but we've got this in the rest of the Trello boards with the different labels and how to go about setting up the files. And if the agency's been asked to use specific tradespeople from the owner, particularly around smoke detector or electrical gas, but might actually have a family member who's an electrician or a plumber, or that they may actually know somebody that can do a handyman, for example. That needs to be set up in the PM Trust software as well. Okay, so there's the 68 points that we would go through an audit. It's very, very exhaustive. But as you can see, if we went through this, and we should be doing this, I believe this should be done on every management transfer that we have. And if you're not going to do the electronic version, then you're just going to use the PDF. That's okay as well. What I would be doing is I'd be scanning that and then adding this in through to here, and then attaching that through to the property manager and saying, these are the things that are missing. The property manager or the listing manager, and saying these are the things that are missing and what we need to have correct before it becomes a compliant property. If we're going to go through and audit our properties, we'll be auditing them every month. We'll be looking at leasing, we're looking at new business, we're looking at transfer business, we're looking at maybe notice to vacate. As we go through and we're regularly auditing, if we become develop a culture of auditing the files on an ongoing basis, what you'll find is the level of attention to detail is going to increase. And as a result of that, you'll certainly find that you'll have less errors, a better customer service, and more compliance. Now, what's going to happen is your staff are going to feel as though it's a little bit overwhelming, particularly if you haven't got good database management systems, and that's around setting up your labels, your tags, your reminders, your compliance check-ins, and all those sorts of things. If you haven't got all of that set up correctly as an agency, then you're going to find it very, very tough to try and manage this. I hope this all helps, and this is the way in which we go through. As I said, we're going to copy this, and then you would add in there the month. So if we're doing this in September of 21, if we're adding in here, it might be property audit number 7, because we brought 7 properties in for the month. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The property manager's name, and then you've got the address inside of here. And again, we're just going to go inside of here, and we would copy that file across in our operational board, and that's how we would go through. Never work in the original, only ever work into the copy file. Hope that all helps. Thanks for that, and until we go through the next audit. Bye for now.